What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be taking a deep look at the pistols in Black Ops 6 to help you guys decide which one is best for you. Now I've already done this same sort of video with assault rifles, SMGs, and LMGs, so if you guys have missed those, I will leave links to those in the description down below, but without further ado, let's dive right into this with our time to kill ranking. And in this game, the fastest killing pistol is going to be the GS545 at 210 milliseconds, although I also wanted to throw the rapid fire values in there as well, because especially with pistols, as soon as you get rapid fire unlocked, it's almost always in your best interest to be putting that on, because most of these pistols kind of lack in the time to kill department, especially that Strider 22 at 360 milliseconds. That is the slowest killing pistol in the game, and even with rapid fire at 324 milliseconds, that's not going to keep up super well with even assault rifles up close. As for our range values, as we can see here, the 9mm PM actually maintains a nice 3-shot kill potential at about 20 meters. The only full auto pistol we currently have, the Recoil, this one actually has a pretty bad range profile overall. It drops off quite harshly to an 8-shot kill. The GS545, while it does kill the fastest up close, it has a very limited range to that, and it's also very unforgiving. As soon as you miss one shot or require that third shot to kill if your range is a little too far, it literally doubles your time to kill to 420 milliseconds, which is quite slow. And that's not to mention the long range time to kill is the slowest in the pistol category at 630 milliseconds. So that gun is definitely a high risk, high reward sort of gun. Also a solid finisher since it deals a lot of damage per shot. So if they're already hurt, oftentimes you just need to put one bullet into them with that gun. And this just leaves us with the Strider 22, and it actually has a pretty reasonable 4-shot kill potential. But again, like I said, the time to kill within that 4-shot kill potential isn't great. Now you also see I included the headshot values there. Most of the time headshots are doing nothing for you with pistols, but there are a few exceptions. So like the Strider right up close, if you hit all 3 bullets to the head, you can get a 3-shot kill, but that's generally unlikely to be taking place. Also in the minimum damage range, so long ranges for all of the pistols, headshots do matter, but again, you're gonna need to mix 2 to 3 headshots in, which usually isn't very practical. Now, of course, like I said, you definitely want to run rapid fire whenever possible on pistols, so let's have a look at this range chart with rapid fire in the equation. Keeping in mind, the only pistol that actually loses damage range by using rapid fire is the Recoil. All of the semi-auto pistols maintain the same damage range, which is nice to see. And you guys can just check out those time to kill potentials for yourself. I'm not going to read all of them out to you, but you do see a nice improvement across the board with rapid fire. Then for pistols especially, they tend to excel quite a bit in hardcore game modes due to their good mobility and handling stats, combined with the fact that they generally deal a lot of damage per shot compared to even like assault rifles, for instance. And as we can see here, all of the semi-auto pistols are a 1-shot kill at all ranges to the body unless you're shooting through some form of cover, which is very impressive. Out of all of them, the Strider 22 is the best in my opinion, just because it has the highest fire rate, and if they're all going to be a 1-shot kill anyway, at that point, fire rate will be the deciding factor. Also, with the Recoil, it is a 2-shot kill to the body at any range. However, in the first 2 damage ranges, if you can hit them in the head, it will maintain a 1-shot kill. After that, let's have a look at a recoil comparison between all of these pistols. Keeping in mind, I did cap off my recoil pattern with the Strider 22, so I'm not firing the full 30-round magazine. That would be kind of ridiculous. I cut that down to 10 rounds just to match the other semi-autos. And as you can see here, the GS545 has a ton of recoil compared to the other guns. There are huge jumps between each of those shots that you fire, so definitely something to be aware of. If you're keeping yourself right up close and personal, this is just fine, but if you are trying to stretch the range out a little bit and spam at the maximum fire rate, that will be causing you some problems. Outside of that, honestly, the rest are pretty accurate. I was quite surprised with the Recoil. It is more accurate than I expected it to be for a full auto. Even though it does bounce around side to side a decent amount, it's generally quite controllable within the ranges you should ever consider using that gun. After that, I do want to have a quick iron sight comparison. And honestly, with all the pistols, the iron sights are great, as expected. If I had to pick a favorite, I'd probably go with the 9mm PM just because it's nice and narrow toward the top, and therefore there's a smaller chance that that will obstruct your target as you're aiming in their general direction. And with that, we can now move into the handling stats, and handling can be quite important with pistols, especially some of the key values here, but let's have a look at our aim down sight time. Honestly, all of these are quite quick, but the Strider 22 and the 9mm PM are standouts here at 140 milliseconds and 150 milliseconds respectively. Then when it comes to our sprint out times, again, they're all pistols. They sprint out very quickly, especially our tac sprint out time. There isn't much of an increase with pistols between your tactical sprint out over your regular sprint out time, so that's nice to know. But once again, the Strider 22 does come out on top here at just 90 milliseconds for a standard sprint out time. After that, a very important stat with pistols is how fast can you swap to those pistols. So with my test, I just swapped from the XM4 with no attachments on it. I just wanted to choose a very basic assault rifle. And with all of the semi-auto pistols, you can swap from an XM4 and get your first shot off within 600 milliseconds, whereas the Krakova is a little bit slower at 650 milliseconds. And that might not seem like much of a difference there, but in a stress situation where you need to get that pistol out as fast as possible to finish off a kill, usually every frame counts at that point, and therefore that is a notable downside with the Krakova. After that though, let's have a look at our magazine capacity by default. And of course, the Strider 22 comes out on top here with a 30 round magazine by default. That's very, very impressive. However, it is worth noting you only get one magazine in reserve with that pistol. And this just leaves us with our reload ad time, again, using the default magazine. And surprisingly, even with that really large magazine, the Strider 22 reloads very quickly at 1.25 seconds, and that's just slightly slower than the 9mm PM at 1.22 seconds. And it is worth noting, the Krakova has quite a slow reload time for a pistol at least at 1.65 seconds, so definitely something to consider with that gun. And this just leaves us with our mobility stats, keeping in mind some of the stats stated in the menus don't seem to align with what you actually experience in game, so these are the real hand-tested values. And when it comes to our base movement speeds, the Strider 22 comes out on top by a noticeable margin here at 5.3 meters per second. It's the same story with our sprint speed. All of the other pistols are just a little bit slower than the Strider 22. That same trend carries over to the tactical sprint speed. The Strider 22 is the standout here. And big surprise for our aim walking speed, the Strider 22 is also on top here at 3.9 meters per second. That's a very solid aim walking speed. And honestly, I was quite surprised to see that with this pistol, especially because it has such a large default magazine capacity. I guess it makes up for the fact that this gun kills the slowest out of all the pistols. And there's really not much you can do to change that. Even with rapid fire and a really good trigger finger, it still kills quite slowly. So I guess it needs all the help it can get in other areas like handling, mobility, and magazine capacity. And I do find that to be a little bit disappointing. I want that to be my favorite pistol. I generally like using the highest fire rate semi-auto pistol possible in games, because usually with those guns, if you have a good trigger finger, you can really take advantage of that and often get a better time to kill than you can get with other guns in the game. But that's just not the case this time around with Black Ops 6. And as a result, while the Strider 22 is excellent in hardcore game modes, and it would definitely be my choice if I was playing hardcore, for core game modes, I'm just not a big fan of it. And this is where we're going to talk about the best pistol in the game. And I'm sorry to disappoint here, but it's once again one of those cases where it just depends on your preferences and what you're going for. Each gun has its own pros and cons attached to it, and we can just go through those really quick. With the 9mm PM, I think this is like the best balanced semi-auto pistol in the game, and at this stage, I'm leaning toward this one becoming my go-to just because it has that nice balance of reasonable time to kill potential, some spammability, a solid range potential, and decent recoil. Then, of course, we have the full auto pistol, which for many people, that's just going to be the easiest pistol to use. You don't need a decent trigger finger. You can just hold down that trigger and get your kills. And this pistol is honestly quite effective. It's not that difficult to use, so that's a big upside with that one. Easy to use, but doesn't necessarily dominate in any particular area. Then, of course, we've got the GS545, which does kill the fastest in close quarters, but it's also the most punishing for missed shots. And it has a lot of recoil and not much range to it. But then again, another upside with it, like I mentioned earlier, is it's excellent for finishing off kills if you've got somebody hurt, because you're dealing so much damage per shot. And then, like I said, with the Strider 22, I really wish it were a little bit better for core game modes because I just don't like it in core, but it's really, really good in hardcore modes. And there we go. That's going to wrap it up for today's comparison of all of the pistols that are currently in the game for Black Ops 6. And this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. Based on your experience with the game so far, as well as the stats that you've seen here today, what is your go-to pistol, and do you play core or hardcore game modes? That is an important distinction. Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.